You are Locked On Giants Postcast, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Giants Postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR 680. And don't look now, but the Giants are back on a win streak. After beating the Texas Rangers 3-1 today out in Arlington, the Giants have now won 3 consecutive games. Heliot Ramos stayed hot, man, and accounted for all 3 of the Giants' RBIs today and continues to build his case to make the 2024 National League All-Star squad. And the Cal Poly kid, Spencer Howard, got his first start in a Giants uniform, and he delivered. We'll break it all down, but first, I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please, 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 if you aren't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks also for listening on the Locked On Giants podcast feed. However you're getting the show, we appreciate you tuning in. And make sure to check out the Locked On Giants Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. Ben Kaspick does a great job. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. This one got going quick, man. Top one, Slater draws a walk. I was kind of skeptical of Slater being in the leadoff spot over Ramos, but Bob Melvin addressed that pregame and basically said he's wanting to bat Austin Slater first because that's what he's comfortable with, and he's trying to look out for his guy and get Slater going a little bit. He's been, in a bad way this season. But Bob Melvin also acknowledged that Ramos is going to be at the top of the order for the time being, just going forward indefinitely. He's either going to be 1 or 2 in the order every single day, which is, I think, something that's really good for this lineup, for the Giants as a whole, for Giants fans too, because you want to see this kid out there getting as many at-bats as possible. And I mean, I want to go out to the yard and see Heliot Ramos. That's who the draw is for me. So batting him behind Austin Slater at the top of the order worked out pretty well today a couple times. In the top of the first, Slater draws a walk to start this game off, and Ramos ropes a double in the gap, scores Slater from first, 1-0, Giants lead. That ball, like 100 miles an hour off the bat. Again, this guy, all he does is hit line drive missiles. Like, that's all that Heliot Ramos does. He's his hard hit percentage, his bat to ball skills, the barrel percentage. He's just constantly hitting balls right in the sweet spot of the bat. And although his home run numbers aren't super gaudy, yeah, I mean, we see what he can do. We know that this guy is going to produce at a high caliber level for this Giants offense going forward, regardless of if he hits a ton of home runs or not. That double right there gave the Giants a 1-0 early lead. The Rangers did get that run back in the bottom of the first. They scored a run without even collecting a hit. Spencer Howard got the start today. The kid out of Cal Poly, if you guys know me, you know I love me some Spencer Howard and some Cal Poly baseball. Spencer was one of the first people that I actually ever interviewed when back in my reporter days with the Mustang News, the Cal Poly student newspaper. Spencer Howard was one of the first guys I ever interviewed. I remember watching him start his first game as a redshirt freshman in college, and dude gave up like 1 or 2 runs and struck out 10 guys in that first start. So this guy has been kind of counted out a lot of times throughout his career, even as back as far as high school. I mean, a couple shows ago when he made his Giants debut, we went deep on the Spencer Howard backstory. But this is a guy who has been counted out a lot in his career until he was drafted into the big leagues. And he was a top 50 prospect at one point in Major League Baseball, and he kind of had a rough go of it in the minors. He ends up bouncing around to a few teams, ends up on the Giants roster this spring training. And since he's gotten some opportunities with the Giants, he's really taken it and ran with it. This has been one of the most productive stretches of his big league career. He saw time with the Rangers, actually has a World Series ring from his time with the Rangers. And he also spent time with the Phillies organization. I mean, this is a guy who has, he hasn't really been able to put it together, and seeing him kind of do this last couple weeks for the Giants. I mean, we've seen him in bullpen games get extended looks, and today he gets his first start because he has pitched pretty well in those bullpen games, well enough that Bob Melvin gave him a start in this one. He was 1 out away from being in line for the win. Poor guy got pulled after 4 2/3 innings. But after the rocky start in the first inning, he walked back to back hitters, the first 2 batters that he faced of the game, and then a sac fly moved Marcus Semien over to third base, and then a Nate Lowe sac fly scores Marcus Semien, ties the game at 1 without the Rangers even collecting a hit. But that was the only run the Rangers were able to muster all day long against Spencer Howard and this Giants bullpen, which has been so up and down this year, man. But they have been in a they've been putting together some pretty impressive performances lately, especially considering the workload that they've had to deal with in recent weeks. I mean, the starters have not been pitching deep. The bullpen, as we talked about yesterday, has pitched, or 2 days, was that yesterday? Man, all my days are running together. That was yesterday. The bullpen has pitched the second most innings of all bullpens in Major League Baseball. They've been used a ton this year. And today, I mean, this was essentially a bullpen game. I mean, they're moving Spencer Howard into a starter, but we had this same game essentially with all these same pitchers a few times this season so far. The only difference was Eric Miller today came in after Spencer Howard instead of before him. And so Spenny did a great job on the mound, only gave up that 1 run. Then in the top of the 3rd inning, Ramos does it again, man. A 2-run bomb after Austin Slater singled just before his 6th home run of the season, 109.2 miles an hour off the bat. All this guy does is hit rockets off the bat. It was a hanging curveball on the first pitch of the at-bat that just got way too much of the plate. And with the guy locked in the way that Heliot Ramos is right now, you can expect a mistake meatball like that to go over the wall, or at least go hit the wall, because Ramos, as we just discussed, is not the biggest home run guy. But even that pitch, Ramos just needed to get that one over the wall, and he did. 109.2 off the bat, 399 feet, gave the Giants a 3-1 lead, and that was all the scoring that we had in this one. A low scoring affair, and then the Giants, they haven't been doing great in those low scoring affairs lately. Their pitching staff has really been getting worked, but today they held it down, man. The 4 2/3 from Spencer Howard was enough. The bullpen took it and ran with it. I mean, we had a ton of pitchers in this one for both teams, man. It feels like Bruce Bochy is just going back to his old ways of Giants managing, where he's just going to throw as many relievers as possible. I kind of wonder how many guys he would have thrown today if he didn't have to if he didn't have the new rules of like minimum batters, the number of batters relievers have to face, and things like that. Like this was a very interesting managed game for Bruce Bochy. I mean, this whole series he's been just going to the pen constantly. I think we kind of know that that's how he's going to manage games. But today, the Rangers used 4 different pitchers, 3 guys out of the bullpen after Andrew Haney exited. The Giants, they used 5. They used 4 different guys after Spencer Howard exited. And it's the same names that we've been seeing in these bullpen games: Eric Miller, Spencer Howard, Ryan Walker, Tyler Rogers, and Camilo Doval. And it did get a little bit interesting there at the end. I felt like the Giants just cruised for most of this game. I mean, after Spencer Howard came out, Eric Miller pitched fine, and I mean, everybody was just fine today pitching. I think the bullpen only gave up a combined 2 hits. Yeah, the Rangers only got 5 hits total in this one. 3 of them came off Howard. Eric Miller gave up a hit. Camilo Doval gave up a hit, and that's all she wrote. Ryan Walker, Tyler Rogers are so good, man. They are just lights out right now. Having the 7th and 8th innings just on lock feels like if you get to the 6th inning, get through the 6th inning with a lead, that this Giants bullpen is going to be able to slam the door more often than not. Even with Camilo Doval's up and down shakiness this season, especially within the last few weeks, I mean, it was kind of all building up for a while. He's been like very Brian Wilson-esque this year, where he's just making Giants fans sweat every time that he's out there before getting the save. I mean, then it all kind of came to a head in that New York series and in that collapse that happened there. And since then, he's kind of started to get back to his normal self. Last night, he looked great on the mound last night. No drama at all. But today we got more of the drama. In the 9th inning, Doval puts 2 runners on in the 9th with only 1 out. That's the 2 tying runs on base with only 1 out in the bottom of the 9th. He walked the first guy, and then he gave up an infield single to the second guy. Just some bad luck there on that infield single. Then it could have gotten even worse. It started to get a little more hairy, but Wilmer Flores made a great play at first base to get the second out of the inning. was a slow roller down the first baseline. Doval went over to cover the bag, and Wilmer, it was a bang bang play. He did not have time to make an exchange after he picked that ball up. He either needed to field it barehanded and toss it over, or scoop it with the glove and make that the glove toss over to Doval at first. A very tough play. I mean, I think everybody knows that's one of the hardest plays to make in baseball is to get, in one motion, make a play and give a good feed with the glove hand. It's tough to do. You see middle infielders do it a lot, but you see really good middle infielders doing it a lot. Not Wilmer Flores sitting over there at first base. Credit Wilmer, man. I mean, he made a great play, not known for his defense over there at first base, but that was a very important play in today's game. Without that play, this game could have been very, very, very different the way that this one turned out. Instead, it's a bang bang play, and they get the out at first for the second out of the inning. And then with second and third and 2 outs, the Rangers rope a line drive right down the first baseline, and it goes foul by a couple of inches, man. I thought that ball was going to stay fair. Dwayne Kuiper said on the broadcast he thought that ball was going to stay fair. And if that ball did touch that chalk, if it kicked up even just a tiny bit, both of those runs on second and third would have scored, and we would have had a tie game with the Rangers still up and a chance for them to win. So that would have been very, very, very different. At a minimum, we would have been seeing extra innings. Instead, that ball goes foul, and Camilo Doval gets the batter to fly out and end the game. Camilo Doval picks up another save. Let's go ahead and move the Camilo Doval saves counter. If you got the saves counter bobblehead, do it with me. We're going to move it from 79 career saves to 80 career saves for Camilo Doval after this one. I believe it was his 11th save of the season. And he's been pretty good, man. He's only got that one blown save so far, or I think actually 2 now. And he's been pretty rock solid up there, even though he has been pretty high drama, should we say? I mean, it's never been like he's had very few 1, 2, 3 innings where he's just looked super dominant. But when he needs it, he gets it. Camilo Doval's 10th save of the year, by the way, not 11th, 10th. My mistake, but we'll take it either way. A win's a win. And the Giants, after dropping a season high 6 games in a row, have now turned it around and won 3 consecutive games. They're 31-33, third in the NL West. And they're right there for the last spot of the National League wild card. We're going to break down on the other side. I mean, the Giants, they have a great opportunity right now to keep this win streak going, to gain some games on the Dodgers, on the rest of those teams, hunting for National League playoff positioning in the wild card spot. In Ramos, man, Heliot Ramos is the epicenter of this pursuit of a playoff position. And for Ramos, the pursuit of an all-star berth. We got to take a little bit. I mean, I know we did this yesterday too, but we got to look even further into the possibility of Heliot Ramos being the Giants all-star. I mean, we saw the guy who I think if you made me pick right now, I'm not picking Heliot Ramos as the Giants one all-star because they're probably only going to get one. Let's be real. I'm picking Ryan Walker. That's the guy who I would throw out there. Or you can make a case for Tyler Rogers too, but I think one of those 2 guys from the bullpen right now gets the nod over Ramos, but he is doing everything in his power to change that fact. And if he keeps playing how he's playing, we'll be singing a different tune in a couple weeks here ahead of the All-Star game. So let's take a little bit of a deeper look at Heliot Ramos and his All-Star bid. He's also got some things going for him too, as in the sense of the rest of the National League outfielders aren't great this year. I mean, there's a ton of good players in Major League Baseball, but a lot of guys underperforming this league in the National League outfielder wise, and leaving the door open a little bit for Ramos to kick it down and make an entrance into the National League All-Star team. So we'll break that down on the other side, as well as looking ahead at this Giants schedule this month and seeing exactly how great of an opportunity the Giants have in front of them right now to boost their resume, kind of pad those win-loss stats a little bit, and put themselves right in the thick of the playoff hunt. We're going to take a quick break. Stick with us on the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll be right back. Today's show is sponsored by Policygenius. Shopping for life insurance is something that can be overwhelming for many people, and that's why I'm here to tell you about Policygenius. Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policygenius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it each step of the way. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will help walk you through this process step by step, which is so important because many of you may not be as well covered as you think. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs, and even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Policygenius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. They have no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance wholeheartedly. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much more you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. Welcome back to the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. Today, the Giants 3-1 victory over the Texas Rangers out there in Arlington, and it was the pitching did really great. We got to talk about the bullpen a little bit later on in the show, but first, Heliot Ramos, man, this guy has been on a tear. I mean, I feel like I say the same thing every show. Without this guy being the straw that stirs the drink, this Giants offense would be dead in the water. They would be boring to watch. This guy has just been unbelievable for the Giants. I mean, his OPS. We talked about that last night. I mean, there's only one guy in the entire major leagues that is a better OPS than him in this month, and that is Juan Soto, who has been one of the best baseball players since he got into the league starting at age like 22. I mean, this is insane. This is insane. Ramos, this is the best outfield prospect that the Giants have had make the big leagues in, I mean, what feels like my entire lifetime, man. This guy, the fact that he's a homegrown kid too, means a lot. That's a big deal for the Giants because they haven't been able to really have a guy produce like this that was a farm system guy, at least not an outfielder. I mean, the Brian Reynolds trade, I mean, I think everybody kind of, Carlos Beltran was nice for that half a season in 2011, but man, oh man, seeing a guy flourish into a perennial all-star as an outfielder that was once a Giants prospect with another team, I know for me, it has just left a really bad taste in my mouth as a Giants fan for many years now. And this kind of cleanses that palate just a little bit. I mean, Ramos coming into today, he's 15 for 38 with 3 home runs, 11 RBI, and OPS over 1100 in his last 11 games. I mean, and today he adds another home run and 3 RBIs, a couple of hits to that. I mean, this dude is just, I mean, he's so unreal at the plate lately. He is incredibly locked in. I mean, close pitches, he's fighting them off, and he's just got such a good eye at the zone there. I mean, he drew 6 walks over a 2-game span earlier this week. He's reached base in 26 of his last 28 games and not just the last 28 games, in all of his 28 games this season, he's reached base 26 times. That is pretty good, man. He's hitting coming into today, he was hitting 379 with runners in scoring position, which has been a really rough thing for the Giants to do this year. I mean, they have not hit very well with runners in scoring position at all. We've talked about that extensively on this podcast, and they, you know, the one thing that they haven't really even done it well during this short win streak, but the one thing that makes you forget about that is home runs. And the Giants had more home runs today. Well, 1 home run today, but Ramos has really been a huge contributor to the Giants since he got called up. I mean, every single stat that you look at is just like eye-popping, man. I mean, he had 57.1% hard hit rate this year with San Francisco. I mean, that's so much better than what we saw during his previous like brief cup of coffee stints that he had in the big leagues. I mean, in 2022, his hard hit rate was down at 42.9, and in 2023 it was 41.7. So I mean, he's hitting so many more balls just on a line, just getting all of every single pitch, even though he's not knocking them all out of the park. And another thing that he's done really well is he's hit lefties really good, which is, I mean, the Giants have really struggled versus left-handed pitching. They're just not very good against them. They've been, I'm trying, I had it written down here, man. I lost my place, but they haven't won very many games against lefties this year. They're losing a lot of games when left-handed pitchers start on the mound. And I mean, you need as many guys that can hit lefties as possible when you're struggling against lefty starters like that. And Ramos has been one of the best Giants at hitting lefties this season. He's batting .381 against lefties. He's slugging over 900. His OPS 1486 against left-handed pitching. This was coming into today's game. And Ramos has just been a revelation for the Giants. And when we start to look at around the league, other guys that are going to make all-star bids in the National League for outfield positions, I mean, you look down at San Diego, I think they got 2 guys down there that are pretty sure going to make the all-star team. Jurickson Profar having his best season by far as a pro. Guy looks really good. Former number 1 overall draft pick by the Padres, looking great this season down in San Diego. I really don't like that guy. I have a very vivid memory of him rifling a ball into the netting at Oracle Park because he was mad that fans were heckling him. Come on, man. Don't even if you're just pretending to like chuck a ball at fans, you don't do that, man. You just don't do that. Very not classy move by Profar last season. And I just don't know if I like very many Padres players. Point being, though, Profar pretty much a lock for the All-Star team this year. Fernando Tatis Jr., I think, is also going to make that team. He's having a great season down there in San Diego as well. Very on par season for Fernando Tatis Jr. And then you start to get into the other guys. Past those 2 guys, I think it's kind of a toss-up. I don't think Ramos is going to really even be able to make I think he's in the mix, but I don't know if he's going to make the team as a starter. If he does, I don't think he's starting. But you also got guys like Christian Yelich, Teoscar Hernandez, and Cody Bellinger all in the mix to make that all-star team. Christian Yelich, his stats at bat number wise, I mean, the one thing Ramos has working against him is that he hasn't played nearly as many games as a lot of these other guys. Yelich has actually played about as much as Ramos has. Yelich has just a few more at bats than him, but I mean, Ramos looks like his numbers are even better than a lot of these guys are in most categories. I mean, I think there's only one player with a higher on base percentage of these ones that we just listed this season, and I mean, he's right up there at 416. It's a pretty solid on base percentage. I mean, it's no Lamont Wade Jr., but I mean, this has been a very good season for Heliot Ramos, and I think that I would give him the nod over guys like Cody Bellinger, who started this season very sluggish, over Christian Yelich, who I think his numbers just hold up a little bit better than Yelich's. And Teoscar Hernandez has the ability of having just an absolutely stacked lineup all the way around him. He sees a lot more pitches and is in a lot more opportunities for a good at bat than a guy like Ramos, who is, I mean, like the number 1 focal point of the Giants offense. Teoscar Hernandez, if he's not even on the Dodgers, do the Dodgers like lose any more games? I don't think so, man. Like, I don't think that guy is really impacting winning a ton for the Dodgers when you have all those bats down there. I mean, do you really need another one? I know he's having a good season. He's a nice player. I would have loved to see him in a Giants uniform this year, but all I'm saying, I'm not saying he's a bad player or doesn't deserve to make the All-Star team. All I'm saying is I think that Heliot Ramos is impacting winning for the Giants a lot more than Teoscar Hernandez is for the Dodgers. The one thing mainly I think that Ramos has working against him in this situation is really his name. I mean, he's not Cody Bellinger. He's not Christian Yelich. He's not even Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, these guys are all pretty well-known names in Major League Baseball. And I think a lot of fans the fan vote is a big part of it. And even players, like how many players are, like, if you're the Chicago White Sox, how many Giants games are you watching? Probably not that many. So I think that he's kind of got a hill to climb in the sense of he's not the most well-known player. He's not a household name, but he's going to quickly become one if he keeps doing what he's doing. And I really hope he does. I really hope he does continue this streak. I really hope that he keeps putting the Giants offense on his back and just carrying him. And I really hope that he does make the All-Star squad. It is going to be tough for him to get there, but I think that when you look at the other names that are out there, Cody Bellinger, Teoscar Hernandez, Christian Yelich, he's having a season that is just as good as any of these three players, and he's right there in the mix. I think the hardest part, like I said, is going to be getting people to recognize the name Heliot Ramos and have him be a household name that people vote for and want to see in the All-Star game. I think he's, if he keeps this up, he's going to be deserving of it for sure. I mean, if he cools off, then that kind of puts that's that. But if Ramos keeps doing what he's doing, he is really going to force some people in baseball to make a tough decision as to if he's going to be an all-star or not. And I hope he makes it, man. I really do. We got to take a quick break. We got to break down more from this game on the other side. Heliot Ramos had another home run today, which is why we're talking about his bid for the National League All-Star squad. I mean, we got to talk about it. This guy has just been so good for the Giants. They would be so boring without him, man. Just so boring. I can't emphasize that enough. I mean, the front office should be like coming up with extra bonus checks for Ramos just for putting butts in seats out there at Oracle Park. Man, this guy, I love me a homegrown kid. We got a break. On the other side, more from this one. This is the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections for a chance to win 100 times your money. Baseball season is officially underway, and there's no better way to cash in on the action than PrizePicks. Add your favorite players from the diamond to your PrizePicks lineups all season long. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your PrizePicks lineup today. You can now win up to 100 times your money with baseball-only lineups on PrizePicks. If you submit a winning lineup featuring 4 Demon Squares, you'll cash in big time on the biggest moments of baseball's early season. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. It's PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Welcome back to the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and today the Giants win 3-1 against the Rangers. 3 games in a row, 3-game win streak for the Giants on the heels of a season-high 6-game losing streak. This team is so Jekyll and Hyde, man, and has been all season long. It was nice to see Spencer Howard go out there and do his thing. This bullpen really shut it down, and the bullpen, man, they've been so up and down this season. In March/April, their ERA was 27th in all of baseball. In the month of May, they had a great month. Their ERA 9th in all in baseball, a 3.38 down from a 5.37. This month in June, right back up to a 6.26 and 28th in baseball. Today, like games like today, going to help bring that number back down a little bit. So the Giants are doing their thing. They're kind of starting to get back into the groove, and that's really important because they play their next 17 games against teams under 500 before they have a pretty tough stretch. They're gonna end up playing the Dodgers, the Braves, and the Guardians after this 17-game stretch. So that's 17 games against teams under 500, and then 9 consecutive games against teams all over 500. Not just teams over 500, but teams that are really, really, really good. Like you look at their roster next to the Giants and you go, yeah, that's not a game the Giants are supposed to win. And that's kind of been how this season has gone. The Giants are just 4-15 this season against teams over 500. That's not good, but the Giants have kind of beat up on teams that they're supposed to beat. You think back to their last winning streak on that road trip. I mean, they beat up on I know the Rockies was at home, but they beat up on the Rockies and on the Pirates. I mean, this team was beating teams that it's supposed to beat. And that's what you need to do during these next 17 games. Just beat the teams you're supposed to beat. The Giants should win. I mean, if they lose one of these series, that's fine, but they should win every other series over these next 17 games. I mean, you cannot have a losing record in this month of June. You need to use this time to build up that confidence on the road, and that seems to be what they're doing now. And I mean, you're going to face those 9 games that they're going to play against teams over 500, the Dodgers, the Braves, and the Guardians after this easier stretch in the schedule. That only one of those series, only 3 of those games are at home. So you're going to have to go on the road and win some of those games. The Giants need to build up some of their confidence before that part of the schedule. They need to pad their win-loss record a little bit before they start playing teams that they're on paper not better than, because they haven't been very good against those teams this season. Again, against teams that they feel like they should beat, they do pretty well, but just 4-15 against teams over 500 this year. You got to capitalize on the easier parts of your schedule if you're gonna want to make the playoffs, if you're gonna want to make a run. I mean, they're right there, as I said, for that final spot in the National League wild card, right there with the Padres and about 4 or 5 other teams. You're also going to face some of those teams during this stretch. The Cubs right there in the mix too. The Giants face the Cubs twice over this next 17 game stretch. So a lot could really be determined in this month of June that really has an impact on how this season plays out, with tiebreakers and things like that. The wild card race down to the end of the season. If it comes down to a game or two, those are really important games that we're going to be looking back and thinking about from this month of June at the end of the season. So the Giants need to do everything they can to give this bullpen some rest, man, and keep these guys fresh over the dog days of baseball, over the summer months, because you can't have starting pitchers pitch 5 innings or less every single day and expect your bullpen to not fall apart eventually. Everyone's going to turn into Luke Jackson if the Giants keep having to throw 4+ innings of bullpen work every single game. So no bullpen is going to be able to sustain that. They only have 8 guys in the pen. I mean, if you have 8 guys in the pen, you're assuming that each one is going to throw about 1 to 2 innings. If you need your entire bullpen to pitch, I mean, every 2 days, that's bad. That's not good, which is basically what's happening when the Giants are only able to have a starting pitcher last 5 innings. So great credit Spencer Howard today for his 4 2/3. He, stretching out relievers is kind of what the Giants have to do right now, because they are so limited with their starting pitching options with all the injuries they've had. Keaton Winn working his way back with rehab starts. Hopefully he comes back soon and hopefully he's the Keaton Winn from the beginning of this season, because he was so good early on. That would be a big lift for the Giants to get him back. And then hopefully, I mean, I think we're all just sitting here praying at this point that Blake Snell comes back and finds just a sliver of the success that he had last season. I mean, could you imagine if both of those guys come back and can start actually contributing to the Giants' wins again? That would be life-changing for this bullpen, for this pitching staff. The starting pitching getting healthier makes the bullpen better. That's probably the position group that benefits most from the Giants getting healthy, starting pitching wise. So let's and Alex Cobb, man, someone, if you see him, call that number on the back of the milk carton, because Alex Cobb's still missing. He was supposed to be back in May. We're in June. Where the hell is this guy? So Giants really struggling with their starting pitching depth and the length of innings that they're pitching. You got Logan Webb yesterday that gave the bullpen a nice little break. You need more than one guy who can give the bullpen a break every 5 days. So the Giants need to figure it out pitching wise, how to get some more innings out of their starters and rest this bullpen a little more. I mean, they held it down today, only gave up 2 hits, didn't give up a run. So credit the bullpen big time with this win. I mean, they held a 2-run lead for 4+ innings. That's really tough to do in today's baseball. That's all the time that we got for you guys today. The Giants, again, 3-1 win over the Texas Rangers. They finish up the series tomorrow. The Giants, they're looking for a sweep, man. They're gonna, I mean, right after that 6-game losing streak, that terrible, like one of the worst points in the season for the Giants, bouncing right back, man. So let's keep riding this wave, keep the momentum high, keep the particles flowing out there, and finish up this last game in Arlington, the last game of the road trip before the Giants come back home. And hopefully they can come back home riding a 4-game win streak and a series sweep of the Texas Rangers. That's all the time we got for you guys today. We'll come to you live tomorrow to wrap up this final game of the Rangers-Giants series. And last time we're going to see Boch for a little while. I mean, I love Bruce Bochy, man. I love Bruce Bochy. You need a beer? Grab a beer. I love Boch, man. That's all the time we got for you today on the Locked On Giants Postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll see you next time. Peace.